So welcome to the Splunk User Group. As I just said, we've got two talks on the docket today: managing Splunk alerts and building custom Splunk apps and dashboards. We've got two guest speakers with us today. We'll just go through this fairly soon.
You got the slides up there, bud?
I do. You can see.
They're not. Unless I'm doing something wrong.
I'm not sharing the slides with you lot, so that's that's the problem. Share my screen.
I mean, I would, but I've got to duck out. So there you go. Teams Inception.
Yeah. This is always the problem with OBS. It's just like dealing with.
Yeah, that's
like
off now.
The size of things. Anyway, so this is the agenda for today. We're gonna start it off with a brief news roundup. But then we're going to be followed by Jaco, who's going to talk about managing Splunk alerts, followed by David's talk about building custom Splunk apps and dashboards, and then we'll cover off any other business at the very end. I do have the YouTube chat open, so if anyone does have questions who is not in the actual call that we have up and running, feel free to put anything in chat and I'll answer them in due course. I think there's about a 10-second delay between us speaking right now and when it actually hits YouTube's live streaming. So feel free to just wait a couple of seconds for a response. Right. So you got both myself, Andrew, and Tom as the co-leaders. It's always concerning to see it. There you go. It's the 10-second delay, and I've got the live window like in front of me, just messing me up. So we actually have different speakers for once, rather than just myself and Tom. So would you like to both introduce yourselves now, and then we'll cover off a bit more about yourselves just as your talks come up.
Thank you, Andrew. Can everybody hear me? Yes. So allow me to introduce myself. I am Jaco van der Schyff. I am a professional services consultant with Datapunctum. We are a Splunk partner within Zurich, Switzerland. I started my Splunk journey back in 2012 in South Africa. From there, I moved to Frankfurt, joining a PS outfit there. And the last 3 years, I've been in Zurich and specializing within the SOAR automation space. So predominantly professional services around Splunk Core, as well as Splunk SOAR, and predominantly in the local market, but also doing some PS from time to time.
Thank you. And David?
Yeah, hi. My name is David Condliffe. I'm a professional services consultant working for a company called VisiCore. We're a partner of Splunk and Cribble. And I've been working with Splunk since 2013. And for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been specializing in creating useful and interesting dashboards rather than the ones that come pre-packaged from Splunk or third-party vendors. I'll show you more later.
Thank you, David.
Cool. So we'll just quick cover off. So our local sponsor is Adama. I don't know how out of date these slides are. Hopefully they're
I've just
still
updated them.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah, I
and
changed all the badges and stuff. So because
Yep.
they've changed the badges now for the Partnerverse. It used to be Partner Plus, but now Partnerverse.
and that's all you'll hear about Adama today, because this is, of course, a tech-focused user group. That's the next slide. Yeah, so please be aware that this user group is being live streamed to YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching this, it's pretty obvious already. This video recording will be made available after the user group finishes on YouTube, although I will be editing parts of this presentation before it's actually posted as a video on demand style video. So if you do want to discuss any topics, please try not to mention any confidential data information or anything you don't want to be made public. Please refrain from explicitly identifying any clients that you work with unless you are happy for it to be made public. Our overall house rules, we try to focus on technical discussions, try to make it an inclusive environment, and we lead by technology. So we try not to have talk about sales and things like that on this user group. So just to cover up some recent Splunk news before we actually get into the main topic of today. So there's pretty obvious news. Splunk has been officially acquired by Cisco as of the 18th of March. I think our last user group was in January or February. So this news is relatively new in terms of the user groups that we put in. They have put out a list of user statements that they would like the acquisition of of Splunk to sort of complement Cisco. So I've sort of tried to reduce them down to like the bare essentials. So pretty much using both Splunk and Cisco's technology to help aid the AI revolution. This isn't explicitly adding AI capabilities, but using Splunk and Cisco tools to help aid with it. There probably will be AI products mentioned in future conferences, like Splunk AI, which was mentioned at last year's conf, which I didn't really read up too much about, but it's a thing. Deliver mission critical security solutions outcomes. So one of the things is incorporating Talos, which is their threat, Cisco's threat intel platform, into Splunk ES and SOAR. I don't think there's been a traditional threat intelligence platform or something that is going like easily integrated into Splunk like Talos will probably be once the work gets done. Improve observability to deliver a common experience and workflow optimizations. This pretty much using Cisco's networking tools to integrate into Splunk and maybe adding some of that Splunk flavor into the Cisco tool sets. I think there's going to be a sort of a terminology, sort of a probably not the right word, but I'm going to create it now. It's like a melding of the two to have like a common sort of a style or language that's going to be used between both the what we know as Splunk right now and existing Cisco tooling. And finally, combine all the tools together so you don't have to buy many tools for one thing. So just reduce the amount of technology that you actually need, which should save money in the long term. For example, if you have this is just a hypothetical off the top of my head, but I know this has always been an issue with a lot of people. But getting logs out of something like Encore or Firepower uses a strange protocol. Perhaps they'll build forwarders into it and shoot it straight into Splunk instead of having to deal with weird protocol languages to stream that data. And there was RSA-C the last couple of weeks. So Cisco obviously announced a couple of things there. .conf is next month, so there's going to be a lot more Splunk-related announcements. But I think the big ones were, I think they've already got XDR integration baked into Splunk. So like telemetry into XDR increases the coverage of your attack surface effectively. And Splunk's announced a new asset and risk intelligence solution. So this should be able to unify your inventory of assets and identities that exist across your multiple source types. It should allow you to. It's always awkward because I've got my notes on like a separate screen, but my camera's there. I'm trying to be a good host here. Try to keep a sort of accurate asset and identity context to help focus and shorten investigations. It should come with out-of-the-box dashboards and metrics to reduce compliance gaps and risk exposure. And it should integrate easily with ES to enrich notable events, and with ServiceNow to populate CMDB records, and I think create instance and things off the back of that. There are some graphics about what the new asset and risk intelligence tool looks like on Splunk's blog. So if you are interested in this product, go and search for it in Splunk blogs, and ask like PS if you're actually like looking to get into like the beta of it or something along those lines. Now, with that out of the way, I'm going to mute myself, and we're going to have Jaco talk about managing Splunk alerts. So I'm just going to mute myself and let Jaco talk.
Thank you, Andrew. Again, I hope you can hear me. Andrew, I will need to poll you to flip the slides. If you would flip to the first one, please. Or the next one. Good. So I am here to talk to you today about a Splunk add-on called Alert Manager. So Alert Manager has been available on Splunk Base for quite some time. It originally started as the result of a hackathon, which was the Splunk aptitude competition, and subsequently it was also the winner. And that found its way onto Splunk Base with quite a number of installs and quite a number of downloads. And this was developed by Mika Borner, who's also a member of Splunk Trust. He's currently the CEO at our company. And him and a colleague of him, Simon Bals, were the developers of the first version, which was an open source release of Alert Manager. Unfortunately, this version, even though it was quite popular with customers, we were the only maintainers, or Mika and colleagues. And the release did not quite keep track with all of the developments in the Splunk world, specifically Splunk Cloud. So Alert Manager was rewritten into what is today Alert Manager Enterprise. And keeping in the spirit with the user group, Tom and Andrew, Alert Manager Enterprise is a complete rewrite of the old open source version, and all of the features of the open source version is available currently within Alert Manager Enterprise in the freemium model. There's also some enterprise features. I'm going to try and not to focus on any of those today. I'm going to try and keep it to the freemium version, meaning the old version users know and love, and I'm going to try and keep everything concise that everyone can follow and also download, of course, the add-on for themselves and give it a try. If you could skip to the next slide, please, Andrew. Good. So what is Alert Manager? So once we log into Splunk for the demo, and I'm sure you've also seen this, when you set up your alerts within Splunk, it might not be that interesting what you can do with them. So you can look at them under the populated alerts. You can send them to email. If you have some external integrations in the form of alert actions, you can send them to an external system, Jira, ServiceNow, etc. And this is also pretty much where Alert Manager fits in. So it's a system to manage alerts, events, and it has quite a number of native capabilities, which makes it quite interesting for people that want to keep their alert management within Splunk. And we'll talk about some few use cases as well as use cases that we see our users adopting. But just in short, we have quite a number of features. We have a notification engine. So if alerts comes in, there's a whole engine that we use to dispatch alerts to external systems. And we support channels like Teams, Slack, email, as well as generic GET and POST requests. Also workflow actions, which we have today in Splunk. I'm going to show you how we incorporate these into Alert Manager Enterprise and what you can do with them from a user and analyst perspective. There's also the rule engine, which I'm quickly going to touch on. This is something I won't be talking too much, except maybe just walking you through some use cases, what you can do with it, as well as custom statuses and tags. So that also I'll be running through to you. Event resolution, something that we count on in the security world. If we have a security event and we resolve it, we want to know what was the status of that. Was it a false positive? Was it false negative? Was it a true positive? All of these states, was it a port scan? So we have support for these resolutions as well as the ability to add your own. And then, of course, I said I will not be featuring too much on any of the commercial offerings, but there is some preloaded knowledge you get with security knowledge and multi-tenancy. Good. I would like to quickly skip to the next slide. And then I would like to dive into the platform. I will try and share my screen, Andrew. Let me see. Here we go, please. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Not. My screen cannot be seen now. Firefox, no Firefox. Let me try that again. Sharing.
It was sharing on the Teams channel.
But not on, how does the share on the YouTube space?
I mean, it's just a white brick for me, so I can't see it, so YouTube can't see it.
Is there something special I should be doing?
Can you stop sharing just for a second?
Yes, I stopped sharing.
Yeah.
It's still a white brick for me. What's going on?
Yeah, because there's nothing sharing on the Teams.
Do I need to join any YouTube stream for that to work?
No.
It's
It's a Teams issue. Can you try sharing your screen again?
Good. Let me try the application again. If that does not work, I will share the whole screen.
I can see it now. I just need to double check to see if it's still getting the audio through.
Yeah, give it the 10-second delay, and we should be okay.
But on Teams, I would presume there's not much of a delay.
No.
It's predominantly on the YouTube side.
That's correct, yeah.
Give me
good.
A second.
All good.
Okay. Should be able to see it now.
Great.
Good. Are we good to go for the demo? Sorry, I can't see any. I'm guessing there was a thumbs up. Good. You can see my screen? All good?
Well, I'm just trying to make sure I can hear you just on the stream. Just give me a second.
Okay, let me keep talking.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
Okay, good. And you can see the screen. You can see the event view.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me minimize and good. Okay, so like I said, let's start first. So normally when you have searches and you have triggers on searches, you can see all of your alerts in your Splunk environment here on the triggered alerts. So I don't have any in my environment here. Just know that out of the box, Splunk gives you the ability to take a search, take the results of those search and populate those as an alert. If you want to manage those alerts today, you have to send those alerts to some external interface. So a lot of the times people starting out with Splunk, that is something like an email notification. Maybe later on they upgrade to their incident management system. Maybe they have the Jira add-on and they send their alerts there. Or they send them to ServiceNow, but out of the box, this is the functionality that is provided by the Splunk platform, the core platform. And what we have done is we've developed a Splunk application, which basically allows you to build an event and incident management system on top of Splunk. And all of this is employed using all of the Splunk tooling. So we have the KV store that's being used, and the KV store is completely separated in terms of the customers we have on this instance. So I mentioned we have a multi-tenant architecture. So these are in separate KV stores. One tenant cannot see what's available in another tenant. They cannot see the indexes. Each one has their separate index and a separate KV store. And as we log into the platform, what we see here, so this is my basic demo environment. And here we see just a quick overview of the number of events we have. So we can see at the top a quick drill down, and we can hide those values as well. But there we see the event summary, and we can create a manual event. We can say, okay, we want the screen to refresh automatically. Let's say we have a SOC. We have like a dashboard on the screen, and we want this to refresh every 5 minutes, every 1 minute. We can set that as well. And at the bottom, we have a little summary that we can enable to show us some events, some metadata about all of the events being presented on the screen currently. We also have the ability to draw through events. We have the ability to refresh, and we also have the ability to filter on specific events, whether that be by tenant, priority level, maybe a title in the search, etc. We can draw into all of those. So what I would like to show you is I would like to show you just what an event looks like and how to use Alert Manager to get started. So first off, I will start with my searches, and I will here just quickly go on all my applications, and I will search for my inbound port scan event. Okay, so here I have a correlation. It's an inbound port scan, which means it's a search that has at the end an alert action. So this is a typical search for such a use case. Maybe you as a team have your own searches that you developed. Maybe you are using SQ, if you're familiar with SQ, Enterprise Security Content Update, maybe using those searches. Maybe those ones with some of the built-in apps that you get, InfoSec 2, etc. A lot of these contain correlation searches, very similar to this one. And what we can do here is we can set up a action. And here we say that if we have a match, meaning if we have a result for the search, what we do is we create an AME event. And here we can set two settings. We can set a title. And here you can see we can reference actually details within the event. And this will create a new event within this title. And this title can be using any tokens from the search itself. And the title is quite important because that is normally the standard key based on which events are deduplicated. And then also we have this notion of a template. So you can already set up default templates. And these templates might define things like default priority levels, what is the notable fields for this event, are there specific tags, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason why we have this templating system is the GUI and dashboard options when you get into development of alert actions, there's not a lot of opportunity here to create additional fields. The configuration ability within this specific within the specific modal view with Splunk is quite limited. So how we get around that is we allow customers to build a template, and then based on that template, we can set certain parameters. So let me show you what this alert template looks like. Good. So this is how you would set up an alert to appear within Alert Manager. So let me go to our templates. For that, I will be going to my SOC tenant. So everything I'm showing today is within the SOC tenant. And here we have the port scan template. And here you can see we can set things like default assignee. Again, you can set up groups within AME, and these groups can match your standard Splunk roles that you have set up for Splunk. So, which means everything in Alert Manager you can ultimately tie back into your role-based access control that you have, for example, in Active Directory. So let's say you have a group with SOC users, you have a group with ops users. You can set that up within Splunk, the correct roles, you map that within AME, and then it just becomes a role-based access control effort of managing access to that group through LDAP. So all of that is supported as well. And these just basically in the template, you can set the default assignee, default tags, resolutions, as well as notification, notable fields, time to live, etc. And I will go into a bit more details about what all of this means. Okay, good. So here we have the template, and templates can be defined per tenant. We can set some default tags, and we can set an interesting thing, whether an alert is appended or not. So what does that mean? So let me quickly go back to our events and think about, let me quickly find one with more than one invocation. Okay, so think about a search that looks over a time period, and it gets a result and it creates an alert for that result. So here we have a high memory usage alert. So that created a new event. And if let's say the search runs every 5 minutes, if the search runs again in 5 minutes, we do not necessarily want a new event to be created. And here you can see for the event we have 2. And here you can see we have 2 events with when it was first seen and when it was last seen. And this is also something that's controlled within the template. So in the template, you can set whether an event gets appended. If you use that template, which means it will just add additional information to it, which the analyst can see, or whether you would like to create a new event. And the nice thing about this functionality, let me quickly run you through a basic use case for that. Here we have the time to live in 1 day, which means that what you can set that if this alert reaches this time to live and it is not updated, you can set a next target. Okay, so think about a use case like a vulnerability scanning exercise across your network. You have your vulnerability scanner. It runs every night. It picks up an open vulnerability. It creates an event within Alert Manager. The next day, that vulnerability is still there. The scan runs and it appends the event. As soon as the vulnerability is remediated, it does not show up this scan anymore. After 1 day or 1 week, you can say that the status is automatically closed, which means that if we don't see that vulnerability again, we can set the alert to close. So now it becomes a simple comparison of how many vulnerabilities we have in the open state with how many appends. So how long has this vulnerability existed versus how much do we have in the closed state that vulnerability did not appear again. Obviously, this does not account for hosts that have gone missing. So there's some additional query you would need to do there. But essentially, this allows you on a high level what you can do with this default settings of the template. All of the values that we see here can be overwritten by the event itself. So a good example is, let's say we have the impact and the urgency, and your search joins with your asset table. And based on the classification of your asset in your UCMDB, you want to modify this impact or urgency. So all that you need to do is you need to use a standard eval, and that search just needs to return an urgency based on what you want. And here you can see how you do that. So all of this can be modified as well as at search time, also based on the results of your search. So if you want to do if statements, evals, cases, and want to modify any of the default parameters in the template, it allows you to do that as well, which allows you to do quite a bit of powerful things within the event creation time. Good. So let me quickly again show you this port scan event, and I will show you some additional capabilities of the platform. So let's have a look at this one. Okay, so here we see a inbound port scan event, and important here is the search. So here you can click on the search, and this allows you to pivot back to the search where you set up the alert. So I showed you just to go to the settings and do it. But if you were looking at the event, you can also just click on the search, and that will take you back to where the search was set up. A really nice other feature is also this drill down. So I see that this event has matched some data in my Splunk environment. I want to look at the source event. All that I do is I open it, I click on the drill down, and here I see the result of the event that created, the result of the logs that created the event within AME. Good. So also each event has an ID. We have the first scene, and of course, like I mentioned, we have this append functionality, which we can model as well. All of the metadata, of course, can be modified: urgency, resolution. If you need to assign this to another team, if you want to set the status, currently it's new to in progress. I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to say this is already a true positive. And I'm going to say demo event, true positive based on input data. Good, there's my event updated. Good, now we can see it is in progress, and I am going to assign to me. Good, and now we have the event, here assigned as admin. Let me quickly find it again. Was it 45? Apologies. Unassigned, which one is the one assigned to me? Here we go. Okay, so here we have the event. Like I say, we only had seen this once. And also I want to show you that the full audit trail is available. So where I was setting the assignee, also setting the status, all of that is tracked with full audit trail, and all of that is available as well for you to do any audit actions again. What I would like to show you is these tags that we have. And one of the major functionalities of Alert Manager is the ability to have tags and to classify your own events with tags. And I'm going to show you the tags quickly here. So what you can do is you can add your own custom tags, and you can also, of course, do that per tenant. A tag has an ID, a name, a URL, which you can use to link to some external piece of information, as well as a description. So I have a tag here for PCI classification. So in the PCI world, it's very important for us to know if an event is associated with anything that touches a cardholder data environment network. So in specific zones in PCI, cardholder data, sensitive data is kept. And we have this tag that allows us to associate that to events. And I'll show you later in the demo how we can use that. So I created this tag manually. You can add your own custom tags. And of course, you see already there's some preloaded tags here. And that is not part of the freemium version, but these tags are available by default. But you can add these tags, of course, yourself as a customer. Good. So what I would like to show you what these tags allow us to do is, let's go back to the event. And if you are familiar with the enterprise security content update, the safe searches, the conf annotations. So a lot of the threat intel currently produced by Splunk, specifically SQ, as well as what's available on the GitHub repository, the safesearches.conf are annotated with tags showing the specific techniques and frameworks. AME sources that from the safesearches.conf, and that allows you to do quite interesting things. So let me show you. Here I am now an analyst. I'm looking at the sports scan event. Already I have these tags associated with it. So from the cyber kill chain framework, I can already see that this is the reconnaissance phase. From the MITRE framework, I can see this is associated with 2 tactics, network service discovery, as well as active scanning. There is a description, which allows your analyst looking at this event to see what this is about. And let's say this is a green analyst. They would like to maybe learn more about this specific tactic. They can click on that, and that just pops up the MITRE page. And here they can read about mitigations, detections, et cetera, to familiarize themselves with this specific attack. So this tags could also be whatever you have in your environment. So let's say you have a phishing process. You have an internal wiki page that tells your analysts how to handle phishing. What you would do is you would create a new tag. You would say this is phishing. Phishing, and I would say phishing, and I have my internal wiki. And here I have, this is not obviously an existing page, and I say, please refer to the attached guide on how to resolve this event. So there is my phishing tag. Oops, apologies for that. Let's select my tenant. There we go. And here I have my phishing tag. So what this allows me to do is, if I have now a search from an email source, and it reaches a specific spam score, etc., I can add this phishing tag, which means that when my analyst looks at the event, they can actually draw into that, and they can expand the tags. And you can, of course, also edit the tags manually. This does not make sense to add it to this specific tenant. Yeah, let's go to SOC, which will have access to phishing. And like I said, this does not make really that much sense, but for, where was that? This one? Yes, there. So there I have now my, please refer to the attached guide, and I can direct my analyst to an internal wiki article, etc. So that is how the tags work, and that is how the tags allow you to sort of expand this platform to external bits of information for your team. So I quickly want to go back to the port scan event, and I would like to show you some of the tools that is available to the analyst when looking at this incident. So we know we have the tags that can give the analyst access to some additional sources. The other thing that I would like to just bring your attention to is this little icon here. And you can see here I have 2 external lookups. So I believe we are all familiar with workflow actions within Splunk. So Let me quickly, if I can get my Zoom bar out of the way. Sorry. Workflow actions. So workflow actions exist today in Splunk as a mechanism to extend the UI. So if users are looking at events and there's specific fields within that event with pertinent information, you can set up workflow actions, which allows you to draw into external sources. It also allows you to draw into Splunk itself. Maybe you want to set some tokens for a new dashboard. But basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to extend the GUI of Splunk with additional enrichment information. And we use this extensively within AME. If you go into Splunk base today and you type in workflow actions, you already see quite a number of available workflow actions that you can just bring into Splunk, and these you can wire up onto AME. So let me show you. For this example, I have a notable field for a source IP. And here I have the Cisco Talos and the virus total lookup as a workflow action. So my analyst can just click on these, and here I bring in additional information. So here you can see the sender IP is poor. Maybe it appears on some blacklists, and maybe there's some additional information we want to make available to the analyst. Also for virus total, here the analyst can draw into the IP information, but think about your external threat sources. Maybe you have a UCMDB, maybe you have your commercial threat resource, and you want to extend AME by looking up these sources of data within these external systems. And that is very much a supported use case within AME. Good, so I am going to now just quickly change some information here. I'm going to set the urgency to high, and I'm going to say, based on my research, Talos and VT external sources, this seems bad. Please handle accordingly. Good, so there I've set my priority. And of course, all of that is available within the audit trail. We also have the ability for more than one analyst to work on the incident. So what analysts can do is they can capture their comments here, capture my comment. I am doing some research. And this can be added as comments to the event. And of course, this is persistent in the index, and all of this is available, in separate indexes, as I said, for complete role-based access control. We also support Markdown. So let's quickly see here, heading 1, for example. And I'm not a Markdown expert, but let's say here, heading 2. And this should render separately. Yes, and you can save that. And that will, of course, render as well to everybody using the platform. So some basic commenting system. If you are doing some incident response, you are responding to an event, you want to make sure you have some notes. All of that is available within the history tab. Okay, let me quickly set this to closed, and then I will quickly run you. I see I'm almost. So this was a demo event, please ignore. So I'm closing this, and then I'm just going to run you through some additional features of the platform. Good, so I'm going to go to the tenants, and I quickly want to talk through statuses. So this is true of any event incident management system. You have different statuses. In AME, we allow different statuses as well, so you can add your own status. So let's say you have a level 1 team that's looking at an incident, and you have a level 2 team, and you want to reflect that in a specific status. You can see that when you look at the event, it's now within team 1, within team 2. You can add these to model your internal workflows. You can also set some constraints, like it cannot go from maybe level 2 back to new. or it can only go from level 1 to level 2 before it goes closed. Maybe a level 2 analyst needs to sign off on the synopsis or the decision that the analyst made. So you can set these constraints. And of course, resolutions, like I said, these false positive, true positive, all of these you can also add yourself. The other thing I want to show you is the notification engine. So we have this complete notification engine within AME, and these can be used to do basic automation. It can be used to do basic notifications to different channels. We support email, Slack, Teams, webhooks, so you'll get some post requests. So let's say something changes in an event and you want to do a post based on that. This rule engine can be used to set up the specific schemes in the platform. I won't be going into that in too much detail. Just know that you can set these specific workflows, you can trigger some basic actions, and you can set up some templates, and that I would like to show you quickly. So here we have a template, for example, when a new event is created, you will see, for those of you that are familiar with SOAR, Tom and others, and you're familiar with the Jinja templating syntax, we support the Jinja template syntax. So you can reference information within the event. There's some looping you can do, as you can do with Jinja today. It's quite a powerful templating system, and we support 2 templates per type, structured versus text. So let's say you want to do a post request, for example, and you want to have like an action, and for this action, you might also just want structured. So there you can build up a piece of JSON. So let's say, for example, you want to create an event within Jira. You can build up a piece of JSON and you can call the Jira action to do that. Something I want to talk about the target is we support this action target, which means that the workflow actions. So this is a search, the alert actions. This is a search in Splunk for alert actions. And you can see there's quite a number of external interfaces already available today in terms of alert actions. These you can also bring into AME as with the workflow actions. So in the workflow actions, you can extend the GUI. Just so with the alert actions, you can extend automation. So maybe you want to craft a response and you want to send that to Jira, or you want to send that to Teams, for example, even though we have native Teams integration. Any of these you can also bring into the platform and wire up in AME. Good. In terms of use cases, typically what we see is, of course, on the security world, that's quite popular. We also see customers using this as a good tool to manage Splunk on Splunk. So think about all of the alerts coming from the monitoring console, the monitoring node, all of those notifications, etc. You can easily feed that into Alert Manager, manage these events. You can look for patterns in your data. Another use case we see is when data goes missing. Some of you might be familiar with a tool called TrackMe. So, for example, maybe you want to generate some alerts from there. It's if whatever you want to do in terms of your alert manager from the Splunk search, we have some cool features within AME to do that. I'm going to stop the demo here. Then I'm quickly, if you wouldn't mind, just jumping to the next slide, and then if we have time for questions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to fix all the presentations again. I think if I expand this,
it's basically I have a final slide just on the roadmap to tell you what we guys are planning, and
2 seconds.
Otherwise, I just quickly talk through the roadmap. I know what's on there. We can also skip the slide.
Yeah, I mean the slide's visible is just there's no camera feed
All good.
from.
Okay. Yeah. All good. Let me quickly say what we have planned. So we're planning observable management. So we would like some native asset and identity frameworks within AME. Also regarding threat intel. So that's something we're targeting as well in a future release. So we want users to bring in their own open source and maybe commercial threat feeds, manipulate these within AME. That's a feature we're targeting. We have a native SOAR connector coming soon. So if you want to, from AME, create a case in SOAR, Splunk SOAR, and SOAR, you want to do some automations, enrich back to AME, maybe close the event, etc. That's also coming soon. Also for users with distributed Splunk instances, maybe you have an instance in the DMZ, you have a search that they're doing some correlations, but you only want to manage the alerts centrally. So we're busy working on a distributed architecture, and then as well some out-of-the-box use cases that we're targeting. And risk scoring is also a feature that will be closely coupled with the threat intelligence, as well as the asset and identity piece we're targeting. So that is the end of my presentation. It is available on Splunk base. Just look for Alert Manager. It's a free download. If you want to play with it, we have support on the user group forums, the same Slack user groups that the Edinburgh channel is on. Just search for Alert Manager Enterprise. You will find it there. And yeah, do we have time for questions, Andrew?
Yeah. I think this is scheduled until 7:30. I mean, it can run until 8 if needed.
Okay.
But yeah. Does anybody have any questions on the call? I also take questions on the YouTube chat. We've not had any questions on YouTube yet, though.
Yeah, I can't see the YouTube feed, so you would need to
I'm
translate
gonna
those for
say
me.
them, shout them out loud when we get any. So, does anyone on the call have any questions about this? Okay.
Sounds good.
No. Okay.
Thank you.
I don't think we're going to get any questions, and YouTube
good.
chats isn't springing up. If people did have questions, they'd be able to contact you quite easily
Yes, for sure.
on the Slack channel you just mentioned.
Yes, for sure. Just reach out to us on Slack. I think that's the best method. Then the rest of the community also benefits. Everybody sees the questions. So please, yes, just ping us on the Splunk User Group Slack.
Okay, cool. And with that, are we happy to move on? I think that muted mic tells me yes, it's time to move on. So next up, we have David and his talk on dashboard design and data visualization.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So this is going to be more of an interactive discussion. And I'm going to work my way through some general guidelines about dashboard design and visualization. And then we're going to switch to some real dashboards, some use cases, some gotchas, some myths that we want to dispel, that kind of thing. So let's talk about some general dashboard design and data visualization thoughts. Okay, so next slide, please, Andrew. All right, so doesn't matter who you are or if you're in this environment, in this world, almost every piece of data you can think of is captured in one point or another, and it's getting larger. The volume's getting larger, the detail is getting more and more every day, every month, every year. Everybody in one form or another has access to a piece of technology that will let you show that information. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that information is actually well received, understood, or basically used to drive a process or people. people still think in certain ways. Doesn't matter about the technology, doesn't matter about the data. The thought processes for human beings is, what gets their attention, where data ought to be, and how it's presented. That kind of thing is fairly well understood. So let's go, and I should make a point here. Those keywords on the bottom, intuitive and simple, they actually are the hardest things there are to actually do. Everybody starts off with putting too much data onto the screen or too much information that becomes difficult to understand or too complex to do anything with. Next slide, please, Andrew. This is one of my favorite sayings, Leonardo da Vinci. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And it's true. The more complex the thing you're trying to understand, the most and best way to actually get the understanding of that data is to present it in its most simplest form. Next slide, please, Andrew. Okay, so we're talking about this, and why does it matter? Because if your data is mistrusted, if it's not understood, if it is presented to its audience and it can't be easily digested, it's going to cause a problem. And not only does it cause a problem in terms of taking action upon it, but because the data itself is either misunderstood or not trusted, that equates eventually to the tool that you're using to view it, even if the two are totally different things. So let's say the data was grabbed by something, syslog, and the data that was grabbed and put into a syslog form was actually wrong. It had been extracted incorrectly. It was badly formatted. It had the wrong timestamps on it. It has nothing to do with Splunk that it was done that way, or Oxide or QRadar, it doesn't matter. But the fact that the data that you're viewing through one of those tools it's interpreted almost as if the tool was responsible for the bad data. So you come to mistrust the tool that's showing you. So bad data will come to bring the customer or the end user to mistrusting the tool that it's actually using to see the bad data. It stops people from taking action. If the data isn't trusted, then you can't use the data to actually guide your actions. Any of those things will cause you, your customers, whoever, to actually not realize any investment that you may have made in those tools or in the method for gathering the data. Let's see the next slide, please. So when I start with an app or a visualization or whatever, I try to define explicitly who's going to use it and how they're going to use it. In a lot of cases, a dashboard or an app, even if it's written for one specific task or view of data, will get used by different people in different groups. Some will be analysts actually wanting to drill down upon the data and get more data out of it. Some will be management or senior management who will want to see an overview of the data, or they want to see it aggregated. What do they do? What do these people want to do with the data? How do they want to act upon it? How do they want to access it? It's no good designing a dashboard that will run on a mobile and expect a guy on a 27-inch TV to have the same view. It doesn't work. How how well do they understand the data that you're actually going to present them with? Sometimes when you present data in the form of a dashboard or an app, you should present context to go with it, so that the data, if I just give you a number and say January and say $26,000, okay, so the assumption is that it was the total for January, it was one day in January, it was January this year, last year, whatever. So understanding when information for something that the customer is going to see or your user is going to see, when it requires context, when it that it needs additional data to make the data valuable. If they don't have it, then they make assumptions, and usually these people assumptions are never right. And with anything else, if you're providing an interface to data, it's got to have a purpose. Is it a purpose just to inform you? Is it a purpose so that you can take action on it? Is it a purpose where you want to create something from it? Do you want to create an event from it? Do you want to create an alert from it? Do you want some way to click on it to go to another view or a next level? Understand what you're going to do with the data and how you're going to use it. Next one, Andrew. All right. So slides are boring, and we've had enough of slides. You've seen a million of them in your lives. So let's look at the real thing. Let me know when you can see my screen, please.
Yeah, it's just a bit of
Okay.
wrangling. Just 1 second while I get it stream ready.
Good. Now, from anybody who's listening or watching, is there something that you want to see in particular? Is there some idea or some feature or function that you want to see? Or I'm just going to pick things and go from there. No? Okay. Let's pick things. I'm going to assume you're all familiar with classic or simple XML, and that you've either understand or have come in contact with the new Dashboard Studio. A lot of people think that simple XML, because Splunk told them that, was limited in what it could do, and that Dashboard Studio had a lot more features about that would make it easier for you to create useful dashboards. Well, some of that's true, some of it's false. I've got two dashboards on here, and one is classic and one is Dashboard Studio, and they'll both look identical. But let's go and look at something that you've probably not seen before. So let's try this one. Okay, this is a process-built dashboard. Let me explain what that is. Let me refresh it to make sure it's got the latest data. Okay. All right, so at the top on the left, there is a REST API call to retrieve the temperature information, the wind, the dew point, humidity, pressure, visibility, etc. And then there's some historical data and current data about what's going on at a particular airport. In this case, it's a series of de-icing processes. And all of these numbers that you see, the gallons by truck, the actual truck numbers, are all variables. So as these trucks apply this fluid, these numbers change. As the aircraft move in and out of these slots, the numbers change. The details of that we can look at in a moment. So things that you've probably never seen before. If I click on this aircraft here in the center, we can view a number of different things. We can view real-time camera and bring it into the dashboard. Or we can view historical data in the dashboard, as in what happened an hour ago on the camera. We can see the actual details that are happening right now with that aircraft and what its status currently is, all the information about it. If I click on this guy, same kind of thing. We can bring in data. This one's historical. This is last night or the night before. I can't remember which one. About this aircraft being de-iced, etc., etc. And again, the bottom changed to details about this aircraft and the number of trucks, what's on it, amount of fluid, etc., etc. It's an interactive based, process driven dashboard. So let's look at a few others. Let's see, what do I have on this one? Oh, this is the dashboard, management dashboard for the last activity you looked at, where they want to know, how many gallons, how many aircraft. Holdover time is the amount of time between the aircraft being de-iced and how long they have to actually take off. How much fluid is recovered, blah, 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 blah. This is a classic dashboard to do with impact to a business for CISOs, how many vulnerabilities are currently available, what their potential revenue risk is, assuming that one of these threats got through, what services were targeted, what policies were actually triggered for the threats that were detected, which business units were actually targeted by these threats, what the amount in dollars was by risk, and then look at things like vulnerabilities by date. And we can play these so you can actually watch these numbers change. So it'll show you over the time period what changed by day for this type of dashboard. And again, this is not meant for an analyst. This is meant for a senior management to actually understand what is happening from, say, enterprise security or whatever security mechanism they had in place. Customer insights. This is a dashboard that's really made for the customer to understand, what is going on in their environment. Things in here, we added things called costs. So we actually gave the customer the ability to put a dollar amount associated with the different source types. So that could be that this source type is on a longer term or a low cost method of storage versus some other source type. We broke down things like the MITRE threats. And if you click on something over here, for example, you notice that the alerts and the SOC alert status dimmed out, or the opacity went less, because we're focused on MITRE CVSS over here. And it also brought up information about each of the attack tactics that was associated with these MITRE alerts over here, and where it was in the data models that each one of these. So if I click on privilege escalation, I can look at each one in particular. Other interesting aspects to these dashboards. things like information about the dashboard itself, what it does, how it does it, who do I contact, what the scope of the dashboard is. If I've got problems with the dashboard, who should I call for help, what phone numbers to use, all that kind of stuff. We built into those. Oh, yeah, you might like this. Anybody seen Tron?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't alive for it, but yeah.
Okay, so here's a Tron dashboard running inside Splunk. So this dashboard itself is not pulling any Splunk data. All right, it is actually pulling data from an external source to actually generate this dashboard. But let me see. If I go to this one, this is using the same technology that we just showed for the Tron dashboard, but we're actually using it inside a Splunk. So this data that's populating this information for the world is actually being pulled from Splunk. So we can use all of these bits and pieces on the left to, you know, change the scale, the viewing angle, the rotation, the duration, etc., etc. And we can dynamically change the locations on the globe by adding a new IP address or adding a new lat long or whatever as it goes. But this one is organized around Windows events. And typically in Splunk, it's very difficult if you start actually putting data in front of a customer and the data is too big to actually fit onto the screen. It's either endless scrolling or it's you happen to click on it and you go to a new page. You don't really want to do that. So because effectively it takes the customer away from the data that they were originally looking at. So we just did this kind of thing here. Well, it would help if I actually did a reload before I ran this. You can use techniques to incorporate this kind of thing. So we can actually use this kind of thing to bring and meld dashboards together so that you can have your customer focusing in a single point to get the data that they want rather than having to move to multiple tabs external to the dashboard. These are all classic dashboards. I'll tell you when we go to a dashboard studio, by the way. So these, again, we can actually dim out what we're not looking at, provide all this type of information depending upon what they click on and how they click on it. You get the idea. And this is a useful one. So sliders. So the slider is set to the value of the search, and then you can modify it to give you a different range associated with that from the GUI. Other things like bringing in a couple of charts, for example, and in line to the chart, we can add data related to the chart, or we can add things like this, which are bringing in modals that allow us to present information at any point on the screen to actually help the customer understand additional information or context associated with where he's looking at. You get the idea. Let's try the next one. That one you've seen. That one you've seen. Okay, I think that's enough. There's more, but the idea is that almost everything you think you can do or want to do, you can do either in Dashboard Studio or you can do it in Simple XML. Out of all the ones I've shown you, only 2 were actually Dashboard Studio. The rest were all Simple XML. Do you have any questions? Is there anything in particular you want to see or would like to see?
Michael is asking about REST API calls. So how did you pull off the REST API calls? If you are on the call, you can unmute and say your question. Saves you typing in chat.
I can actually show you. Let me see if I've got it open. Let me open a new. Nope. No, on this one. Let's just duplicate this. Go to search. All this is on a cloud machine at the moment. So here's the curl command. I'm going to take the collect function off the bottom, so I'm not writing it to my index. But there you go. There's a REST API call using curl. And then the extraction done as a extracting from raw using SPath for a JSON formatted REST return. Do not use REST API, do not use modular API. You can if you want. I'm not going to say you shouldn't, but this is a tool called curl. It's up on Splunk. It's free. All it does is add a command to your Splunk environment, which has basically got a Python executable in the back of it, so that you can execute a curl command inside a search string. And what it returns is basically, well, it depends on the REST call, but it can be JSON, XML, you name it. And after that, it's up to you. I basically use this to grab weather information. It works fine on Splunk Cloud as well, by the way, as well as AWS and everywhere else I can think of. And basically pull the data back into Splunk on the search, and I then write it to an index using collect. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. That's really interesting. I've never seen that. I've never seen it done like that before. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
It actually is really, really efficient, and not using Splunk has tended to put a lot of restrictions around the REST API app to the point where it's in some cases unusual. Just accessing or just providing the curl command basically gets around that and makes it much simpler and easier to use. Now, that doesn't stop you having to do things like adding a domain name if you need to your .conf to make sure you can actually get past the restrictions associated with any external calls. But that's easily done. Not a problem.
So I think a similar question, and you don't need to show this in a search, but I'm assuming the video content is a similar curl, but instead of JSON, you're streaming it into like the web.js, like a web.js object. Am I vaguely in the ballpark?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, you are. There's two ways. One is as long as the camera supports, say, streaming mode, HTTPS streaming mode, you can get to it with an IP address. The other one is to spool it to an MP or MP3, MP4, or convert it to a GIF or a JPEG or anything that supports multiple frames. You can pull it in and use it in Splunk. There's some limitations. For example, don't do it. Don't try and use SVG, and do not try and store it in the not CSV. What's it? No, don't try and store it in a KV store. There's a limit to the blob size you can get into the KV store. I think its limit is, even though they say it's 15 gig, I believe I've seen issues where you try to put in bigger than 12 gig. So I tend to store it, put it into a storage place if I'm going to review history, and pull it as I'm pulling a file and not try to put it into the KV store. The other way is to do the HTTP link to a camera and have it stream. Does that answer the question for that one?
Yeah. I think I saw like a similar experience back in Conf 2019, the one time I was there, where a Splunk employee created a recognizer, so using Amazon Recognizer to take your face to get like a some semantic emotional state or whatever on it, and I think the resulting dashboard did show images out for blob, but I couldn't remember how it was actually done. So I think that was probably along the same lines of what you've just shown off here.
Yeah, and basically it's knowing the type of image and where to put it, or how to get to the IP streaming via a custom URL. That's the only limitations that you have, apart from, don't try and store it in the KV store. That doesn't work very well. You'll crash the KV store. And Mongo has a limit, and you don't want to break it. Anything else?
There's no questions in chat. I'll give you a hard one just to finish off. Mm-hmm. So on average, how long would one of these dashboards take to create? Like...
Depends. Some of them take let's put it that way. One of these, let's see. This one has taken me 2 weeks. This is my third iteration of this. It was originally not in Dashboard Studio. It was in Simple XML. Same it looks identical. I can show you. Mhm. All right, so this is the version inside of Simple XML, and this was the version inside of Dashboard Studio. Same REST API calls, different way of handling the graphics, different way of handling layouts and all that kind of stuff. So this one, its third iteration. The first iteration took me a month. The second and third iterations probably took me a week or so each. There's nothing quick about this stuff. If you're going to build complex dashboards and apps, then understanding what your customer is actually looking for or what your end user wants. These types of apps, if you make a mistake about understanding how the data needs to be presented or what the customer is really looking for, it costs you a lot, because it means you're going to go back and rework a lot of stuff. But on the other hand, they can be extremely useful and valuable if you get the right kind of interface that displays the right kind of data. There's nothing you can't do, really, if you really want to do it. It's just time and understanding your data and what the customer wants.
Cool. All right. I don't think we're getting any questions on YouTube chat, so I think we're probably all questioned out. So thank you, David. Did you have any other slides after the one that you had?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. I'm going to get back to the slides and finish up. Sadly, I can't get the video back. I've got the slides working. So, any other business? So, any questions? Anything you want to chat about in the next couple of minutes as we finish off the session? We'll give it a minute or two. We don't tend to, but if there's anything you think anyone else would be interested on this call hearing about, just feel free to say out loud now. Okay, right. So the next session will be the .conf announcements session. I'm staying in the UK, but Tom, who sadly had to leave the meeting halfway through, is jetting off to Las Vegas to I don't know if he's got a presentation or not. He hasn't told me if he did or not, but certainly we'll have some of the announcements to discuss at the next .conf SUG user group session. We are hoping to do this in person. We only did this online because it was just tricky to get even myself and Tom in the same place this week, let alone our two fabulous speakers from across the globe. But if you are in Edinburgh or the general Scotland area, we're hoping to be hosting in person, as well as live stream it on YouTube. So look out for that. Dates will be coming probably in like a fortnight to 3 weeks time, once we work out what the actual schedule will be for the next session. If you'd like to get involved, please click any of these links. Obviously, you can't click through YouTube, but if you search for the Splunk User Group on the user group's website, or if you search for Splunk User Group on LinkedIn, there is a private group on LinkedIn that we will preview on, and we just post announcements on there. We've got a Slack channel. Jaco was also talking about his app, which also has a Slack channel. So I would join the Slack group if you haven't already. It's just at that simple URL. And if you want to present and share anything at the user group, you can contact either myself or Tom at the email addresses on the slides. They're also listed on the user group page itself. And I can't remember what the QR code leads you to, but I think it's the user group page. So you can easily scan that to get easy access to the user group. And with that, I'm going to stop the user group for today. Thanks for joining in person virtually on Teams and on YouTube. Hope you have a nice rest of your day, be it morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And we'll hopefully get in touch soon for the next user group, which I think is going to be early July at this rate, but yeah, we'll see. So thanks for joining, and I'm going to stop the call now. So thank you very much.
Bye, Andrew.